It's about time, it's about time. Well, hello and welcome finally to my vlog. I've been away, I've been quite busy, as you might have seen if you've been following me on Twitter. Bob and I were very, very blessed to welcome a lovely little baby girl, Florence, into our lives. She's been amazing and incredible. You might notice I have some dark circles under my eyes. She'll be 6 weeks old this Wednesday, and lack of sleep's fun. I thought I knew what it was like to be tired writing through the night very often with my books, but I was actually wrong. But she's amazing. In fact, I thought you might like to hear from her, so I just decided to ask her about my latest book. So, Flo, what do you think of the storyline for my new book? Flo? What do you reckon? Is it good? Yeah? You're quite relaxed about it then? Oh, okay. So as you can see, completely nonplussed, but I hope that's going to be the way that she's going to be when I'm writing. I have another month off with maternity leave, and then I start writing again, although I have sneaked a little bit of writing in recently, which is lovely. And I started to write book 7, because book 6, which is I'll Take New York, which will be out at the end of the year, is already written and edited because I did it before I went away on maternity leave, so that's really good. Now I've got some great questions. Thank you very much for your questions. I'm going to get straight onto them because I've got quite a few. Okay, so first question is from the lovely Hannah Beckerman. She's the author of The Dead Wife's Handbook. If you've not read this book, you need to buy it. I've told you now, that's it, go and buy it. Hannah wants to know, how do you write 1,000 words in an evening when you have a new baby? I did actually put this on Twitter, that I managed to write 1,000 words. You type very quickly. That's probably the best way to write 1,000 words. Eventually what will happen is that I'm going to write when Flo's sleeping, and as she gets more into a pattern of sleeping, that's the plan. Whether that happens or not with the baby, I have no idea. We'll find out. So hope that answers your question. And she's got a second question. She wants to know, with opening chapters, how do I decide what's the best way, or the right way to open a book? I try and make sure that my opening chapters are a little bit different, that the characters are in somewhere that's a little bit different. So for example, in When I Fall in Love, Elsie's accused of shoplifting in the first chapter because it kind of puts you straight in the action. In Welcome to My World, Harry's locked in the middle cubicle of the toilets at Stone Yardley Village Hall, so it's something that's a little bit different. At the start of I'll Take New York, because it's written from both Bee's perspective and Jake's perspective, you get to see them in chapter 1 and chapter 2. Bee is waiting for her boyfriend to arrive. He's managed to get all of her family together, and it looks like he's going to possibly pop the big question, and he hasn't showed up. So it's that moment of complete just embarrassment that all your family are there, and your boyfriend, who's said that this is an important thing, hasn't shown up. And then in chapter 2 we see Jake leaving San Francisco, where he's been living with his wife for the past 7 years, been really, really happy. He's leaving to go back to New York because she's filed for divorce, and he's still reeling from that, and so he's going home to New York. So again, it's just to kind of put you straight in the action. So I try and make sure that as soon as somebody opens my book, they're right in the middle of the story. So I hope that answers your question. Thank you very much for your question. It's from the lovely Cheska Major. Hi Cheska, thank you so much for your question. And Cheska's just signed a 2-book deal, which is brilliant. So congratulations, looking forward to reading your book. She wants to know, tell me how I spruce up a scene that's lagging or missing something. I think that comes in the editing. I think what you have to do is to maybe think outside the box a little bit, because very often if you've written a scene and it's been there for a long time, often what can happen is that you feel like you've lost your way a little bit with it, or it gets a bit muddy. So try writing the scene from a different point of view, maybe put the characters in a different setting, maybe even have different characters talking about what it is that you want to do. Have a look at the other scenes that are around it as well, and see if you can get across what you want to say in that scene, maybe in one of the other scenes. The other thing as well is really make sure that every bit of dialogue, every bit of description should be there, and that means that's what Katie Ford calls killing your little darlings, which is basically going through and being really ruthless with it. But I think you do that in the editing stage rather than the actual writing stage. Get the ideas down, and then go back and say, is everything that I'm doing furthering the story? If it's not, then get rid of it, and you have to be quite ruthless with it. So I hope that answers your question. Next question is from lovely Laura Lovelock. Hello Laura, thank you very much for your question. She said, how do I find time to write? Do I have to be strict and stick to a certain time? Before Flo was born, I could kind of write whenever, and I used to write after I got home from work. I've only been a full-time writer since September last year. So I used to get home from work and then start writing, and generally I write better at night than I do in the daytime. Since Flo's arrived, all bets are off, completely different. But my plan is to write when she's asleep, and then one day a week I'm going to go down and see my mum. My mum's going to look after Flo, and that means that I get a morning of writing. So it's all kind of up in the air at the moment, but it's literally, I will have to be really strict because I won't have much time. But I think probably the pressure of that will be good because it'll make sure that I get the writing done. So I hope that answers your question. Next question, lovely Kev, I Heart Chicklet. Hello Kev, how are you doing? Thank you very much for your question. He said, how do I put my plot together? Do I construct it with sticky notes? Not yet, but I have been talking to the amazing Julie Cohen, who's the author of Dear Thing, and she is like the queen of sticky note planning. Like, her sticky note planning is beyond belief. It's so amazing. So for the next book, I am actually trying to do stuff with sticky notes. I haven't been that good at plotting in the past. I tend to just kind of make a list of things that I want to talk about. But again, because of my time being quite precious at the moment, I am going to have to get a bit more plotty. So I'm kind of learning as I go along. So I hope that answers your question. Next question is from lovely Katrina, who's Fabulous Book Fiend on Twitter. Hello Katrina, thank you for your question. She said, how do I balance dialogue and description in a short story? In a short story, your words are at a real premium, particularly if it's a 1,000-word short story or a 500-word short story. What I'd say is make sure that every bit of dialogue that you have has a reason to be there. So you need to kind of write it out first in a first draft, and then go back and be really ruthless and make sure that every time someone speaks, it furthers the story. The same with description. Put tiny little bits. A sentence of description can very often tell you more about a character than a whole paragraph. So the main thing is in the editing. Write it out first and then go back and edit it, and be really ruthless. You have to be ruthless with a short story. So I hope that answers your question. Next question is from lovely Sam, Sam's Book Corner. Hi Sam, thank you very much for your question. She wants to know, do I need certain things to write, such as a cup of coffee and chocolate? If I had chocolate every time I wrote, I would be the size of Jabba the Hutt. I do actually quite like After Eight mints when I'm editing, but that's just me. I kind of bribe myself that every 3 pages I can have an After Eight mint, or every 5 pages. I do always have a lovely blanket from the Atlantic Blanket Company that I've had for years, and I have that over my knees. I'm a bit of an old lady, I like a blanket over my knees, but pretty much that's it really. And I can kind of write anywhere. I write in my office, but I also write on the sofa, normally with Flo on one shoulder. So yeah, as long as I'm comfortable. So cushions and a blanket is probably what I need. So I hope that answers your question. And the last question is from Ellie Morgan. Hi Ellie, how you doing? She wants to know, do I think lots of indie chick lit writers are trying to be like the famous ones? I think when you write your first book, you are trying on styles for size to see what works. So very often you end up writing a book that's similar to someone that you admire. For me, when I wrote my first book, I hadn't read much chick lit. It wasn't the kind of thing that I read, and I didn't realise that my book was going to be classed as chick lit, to be honest. So slightly different for me, but I think you try and find try on different styles until you find the one that fits your voice. So I think for some indie first-time writers, or first-time writers in general, I think there are shades of other people's voices in there just until you establish your voice. But I don't think that's a bad thing. I think in order to learn to write, you need to look at how other people do it. So I hope that answers your question. So there we go. That's all the questions. So it was a bit of a question fest. I will be doing this every week now, so send me your questions. What would you like to know? You can either tweet me at Wordsmith on Twitter, or you can drop me an email to mirandawordy@gmail.com. Take care, have a great week, and I'll see you soon. Bye. Anything else to add? Right, okay. Yeah, okay. Thank you, thanks.